And we're live.
Hello, hello.
Word up.
Word up.
Audio sounds good, so I don't need these things.
There you go.
Welcome to episode 2 of Word Up. Now we have a name.
Yeah.
We didn't have a name last time we shot
just
this
made it
thing.
up. There you go.
It's been 2 weeks. We came up with this idea. If you missed 2 weeks ago, our first episode, we thought we'd come at you with a little bit of a word. In our circles, when we go to our respective houses of worship, they call it the word. They're going to bring the word to us. And like I said last time around, usually that word is inspiring. It's meant to uplift. It's meant to feed you in a sense.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we thought, why don't we take some of that word and apply it to business, entrepreneurship, hustle, marketing, branding, all the things that we're into every day.
Because why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
So that's why we're here. And I've got a little timer on. So if you're on LinkedIn, I appreciate you not scrolling completely past it. So if you're seeing this, stop, play the video. We'll give you about 9 minutes worth of goodies.
Yeah.
And then if you like what you're hearing, jump over to YouTube. We'll put a link here below. So happy Tuesday, I guess.
Yeah.
We just came back from lunch and had some sushi.
And some coffee.
And coffee, courtesy of the Drip. Fullerton.
On point.
Pretty good coffee, man.
It's legit.
I would say. So anyways, I've got notes for 2 weeks since it's been 2 weeks.
All right. Cram it.
Last week's, I think there's some stuff there we can draw from. This week's a little tough, man. It's Love Month. Being that it's February and Valentine's is coming up, and it's kind of a big deal for me this year too as well. So I've got an anniversary coming up. So shout out to my other half. We're about to celebrate 20 years.
Right on.
So it's a big love month.
Yeah, it
but
is.
We'll get into that part second because I don't really know how we're going to apply this to what we're doing. But last week, it was a lot about abundance was kind of the main key word. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the theme was, I mean, it's this whole you reap what you sow.
Okay.
So that's easily applicable to business, right? What you reap what you sow. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does that mean to you? Like,
well, it means that you can only get out of something what you put in, right? So you can only sort of harvest the seeds that you've planted. Doesn't work magic. There's no magic beans in that regard. So, I mean, that's a very literal interpretation of it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there's definitely a lot to be said for that. And there's other, I think sometimes there's a little bit of thought that, I feel like maybe I'm on God's good side if things are going well, and if I'm on God's bad side if things aren't going well. That's a weird way of it's a weird relationship. Yeah. To sort of put God in. It doesn't quite work that way.
Or even in any relationship, right?
Any kind of relationship, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, but I think there's some truths to the idea though that, what you put in, you can get out. Even if it's not sort of exactly what you want. I think faith kind of leads us to believe that even if it isn't the result that you wanted, it's potentially the best thing for you in the end, right? So there's all those sort of windy roads that still lead to where you're supposed to be. So having that sort of faith and perspective helps kind of make that journey possible.
Sure. And we talked about some of this, I think last time too, about just the journey of it. But when you think about planting and seeding and, quite literally too, we have Trimble's one of our clients, and that's that's their whole world.
Yeah.
In some regards.
We actually do have an agriculture client
Yeah.
that does a lot of seeding and planting and watering and
Yeah.
weeding.
Weeding. Yeah.
Yeah.
But these harvests take time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They have to be carefully attended to.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of patience to wait for that fruit to bear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I get out of it is, you know, we've been doing this a while now, and sometimes you want things to happen now, or you make decisions based on short-term gain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Without thinking about the harvest later. So when I think of abundance, being that's kind of the key word that I started with, is how do we ensure in business that we have plenty when we need it? It's easy to say you have it all the time, but you know, economy's good right now and everything's gravy, but it's not going to be, or it's gravy until it isn't.
Right.
And then you think of stories like, I mean, even Joseph, right? And I apologize to those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, but there's a story of Joseph where he was basically instructed the Pharaoh, right, to store up the crop, to save it for 7 years, because you're about to hit 7 years of famine. And he believed him. He said, do it. You're in charge then. Go do it. And sure enough, when the harvest dried out, man, they had this thing stocked up and stored up, and they survived. And how many businesses fail because they don't weather that storm?
Yeah.
And it's not even really money. You know, nowadays you have guys talking about brand. So what can you do today that I mean, these videos, right? I don't know how many people watched last time around, but probably not a lot. But we just started this thing. This is one of many things we want to put out there. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we want our brand to mean something. We want to put content out there that's meaningful to someone.
Yeah.
And in 5 and 10 years, when the technology shifts or we get another crash, we might actually be able to stand on something in our brand. And there's businesses out there and entrepreneurs and companies, if you know, you marketing leaders, whatever. I know you're trying to keep a job, but if you're taking those steps, planting those seeds and sort of moving the needle towards your brand, whether using social or whatever it is, creating content, like it's worth it. Yeah. Because if you keep doing it, there's going to be a payoff. It's going to be a payoff at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And in some ways you can kind of think, I mean, there are a lot of people who sort of sustain their career through their relationships, right? Their connections. And that's a lot of people that's great. That works really, really well. As business owners though, you kind of, that relationship is sort of personified through what your brand is, sort of who you are, what your company is doing. That's your relationship with your customers, more so than, you know, hey, I've got so-and-so in my Rolodex. You know, I can call him up and he can help me out. But so that's why it is sort of important to have that figured out, because otherwise, you know, you're sort of left on your own when things don't work out. So, yeah, and something interesting too. I'll take this out of the book of Gary Vaynerchuk.
So that's what we're going to do every week. Instead of quote the Bible, we're going to quote
here's my
Gary
Bible
V.
verse.
Oh, hey.
Oh.
Hey, look at that.
There it is.
Clouds and dirt, man.
There it is, clouds and dirt.
Always repping.
Anyway, can't help but drop a little Gary V in here. But he did have a talk. I don't know when it was. It just came up on YouTube one day. And he basically was like, guys, let's be honest here. He's like, a lot of the people here who got into social media marketing, who got into cryptocurrencies, who got into influencer marketing, we all did it, or you all did it, or we all did it, whatever, because we thought it was going to make a quick buck. We all thought, oh, that's where it's at. I'm going to make a killing on this right now because it's now. I'm going to do this quick and easy. And he's like, that's the wrong attitude. And his whole thing was that you have to love what you do. That's who's going to win, because otherwise, you know, no one's going to. You're going to flake out. You're going to burn out, or you're going to become irrelevant. You're going to be commoditized on some level. So really, you have to love what you do, but sort of have that long-term goal. You know, be doing something that you can see yourself doing 10, 20 years from now and still enjoy. Mm-hmm. If you can do that, then you're on the right track. You might not make a lot of money at it at the time being, but that can always change.
True. Now, how does the modern is not the word. How does we think of Love Month? Shifting gears here. I'm going to force us into this. Romance comes to mind, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Is there, when I think of romance, I think of times when, and I'm stuttering because I'm trying to figure out how to say this. There's times where we feel romantic about our business.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Or our clients. Yeah.
And man, that leads you to some heartbreak.
Dude.
Right?
I've always said, like, being a creative is like just being like a hopeless romantic. Like, your job is to fall in love and then get your heart crushed and then come back the next day with another poem for your beloved, only for them to go, yeah, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm not.
It happened to us today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I was up late last night writing poetry.
Yeah.
Came in and they were like,
and I told you to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, don't go too far with this.
Don't fall
in love. Like, fall in like, but don't fall in love. And yeah, sure enough, I come in and
it's only the second date,
halfway through, roses are red, violets are blue. They're like, yeah, we don't like blue. We don't like the blue. We're not a blue fan.
No, you know? We don't like roses.
Well, we don't like roses. If we could, have you thought about other flowers?
Oh, painful.
Yep.
Painful.
Yep. So now it's like, come on back. All right. And try not to, you know, but at the same time, you know, but that's just the business. But you have to fall in love. If you don't let yourself, there's no, you know, there's nothing to pull from. Yeah. You know, you have to have some muse involved.
Fall in love with what you do. Fall in love with the business, but don't be romantic about it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, there's got to be some. Don't crush. You know.
Yeah.
Don't become infatuated.
It's that scene of Chris Farley and Tommy Boy when he's at the diner, and he's talking about his precious little pet, and he's got the dinner roll.
Yes.
And he says, you love it, and you pet it. And then he's like, wow. He just shreds that thing to pieces, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's what you don't want to do.
No, you can definitely crush it. And especially, too, like, I had to catch myself, and Charlie was like, it took me about half an hour to kind of, like, come out of that.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't that I was resentful or anything, but it's just like, I kind of held my ground, too, you know? And it was just sort of like, I wish that, you know, of course I wish that everything was like, oh, this is the best thing we've ever seen.
What did I do? I'll change.
Yeah, exactly. I really do love you, you know? And anyway, but it's sort of like you just have to kind of, you know, pick up and move on and keep going, right? You can't be like, oh, I'm done with this. But you kind of say, okay, what else can I pull from? You know, what's my next poem going to be? It'll really impress them. But that's just part of the business. And, you know, I know that it's so funny because I know that routine so well, but it gets me every time.
Yeah.
Every time. Like, so without fail. So it's kind of funny that way.
Sure. And I think about not just the client work, but the business. Like, we get romantic about Sightbox a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And man, we want to, you know, take it out on dates and, you know, and go to the fanciest restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
And we put it up on a pedestal sometimes. And not that it's wrong. It's just, like I said, it's gonna break your heart when you put that kind of emotion into something. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's a way to love without being romantic about it, in a sense.
Yeah.
I I appreciate people that are romantic about their projects, or, we've all had those passion projects where we're just like, you put everything into it, and you'll do anything to see it through. And while it's good, I think you need to have some balance, because more times than not, it leads to heartbreak.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not giving you relationship advice, so it's probably the opposite.
Yeah.
With relationships, I'm sure you gotta go through heartbreaks to find the one, right? But in business, I don't feel it that way. I feel like every time we find ourselves there, we take a step back, and we say, okay, let's learn from this. Let's not repeat this. But that doesn't mean don't have big dreams and visions and that sort of thing. Just don't let that cripple you, because you can be romantic about a project or your business or whatever it is you're working on and really not do anything. Just, an emotion without action is just, it's just there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I feel like you need to put yourself in a position to constantly be moving that needle forward. Like we said before, planting those seeds, doing the stuff that you want to do to prepare your business for longevity, for abundance, right? And abundance doesn't always mean, riches. I see it a lot as fulfillment as well. So if you can be fulfilled every day, you keep pushing forward, you have no regrets in life. That's really the key, I think. We're sitting around, a couple old dudes looking at each other like no regrets.
Yeah.
That's the greatest gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah.
You get any nuggets this weekend?
I'm trying to think. There was a lot of talk of love. And really this sort of, I don't know how to make this applicable, but coming down to this idea that, that the belief that God loved us first, right? That we didn't sort of on our own earn that. That it's always been a gift, freely given, but that really it's sort of up to us to receive it, to be open to it. And so, but you have to sort of prepare for it, right? You got to ask for that and sort of be ready for it. And so I guess in some ways, you kind of you're talking about abundance and stuff like that. I think in some ways success or some sort of level of the way a business grows too is success isn't something you do, It's not like you can wake up in the morning and go like, I'm going to be successful today, or I'm going to achieve success. I think a lot of times what success is sort of, you have to what it is something you prepare for, right? It's not something that you do. It's something that sort of happens to you, comes at you. And the question is, how am I going to receive that success today? Am I going to question it and be like, well, I'm not ready for that, or I'm not worthy of that? Or are you going to be like, maybe I don't even recognize it when it comes, right? Or you look at the gift horse in the mouth and be like, this isn't the success that I wanted. I wanted it to look a certain other way, right? But being open to receive whatever that is, that I think is sort of maybe a lesson to be learned in that, to be humble enough to say, this is a gift of some sort, and where it leads, who knows, And we've had an interesting day today already.
Yeah.
We've had some talks with people already today that could potentially change a lot for us, right? And we're having at lunch today and discussing it. And we're like, if both of these things happen today that we talked about, it could be transformative for both of us, for all of us. So it's sort of like, there it is. Like, what are we going to do with it? Move on, get distracted, be like, I'm too busy for that. Or do we sort of embrace it and be like, yeah, let's do that, or let's see where that goes. So to me, it's sort of being open to responding to those things as they come.
Yeah, being open. I mean, that's huge. It sounds easier than done when you kind of run your own business, or
because you feel like you got to be the one making things happen. versus sort of allowing them in a way, right? Sort of
Right.
letting them happen to us at the same time,
Yeah.
you know?
It takes a lot out of you to let your guard down a bit and say, you know what, I'm just, let's see what happens. Right. There's a lot of that too. And I think a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs aren't willing to see what happens with certain things, where I think there's more upside in letting things play out, because you don't know where you're going to end up.
Right.
Like,
It's risky.
Hell, if I hadn't done certain things, you hadn't done certain things years ago
Yeah.
that seemed risky or you were scared to do, we wouldn't be sitting here
No,
right now
no, not at all.
and in those positions. So I'd much rather be in a position where I'm letting myself do that, and we're letting the business do that a bit, because we just might end up in places we never imagined
Yeah.
we'd be.
And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
Like waking up and being like, well, I didn't plan that.
No.
That wasn't my plan at all, you know?
Yep. It's the whole, I always say, I'll probably wrap with this. There's that scene in the Titanic where Leonardo, his character,
Yeah, what's his name? Yeah.
Jack,
Jack.
he's wearing the tux. He borrowed it. I don't remember. And he's sitting around with all these rich people, and they're kind of making fun of him.
Yeah.
They're ridiculing him, but he's sitting around like, I'm not even supposed to be here. So
Yeah, right?
you know, his attitude is
Yeah.
he sees it. He's smart enough to know
Yeah.
that they're clowning him.
Right. But then he's like, almost like, I'm laughing at you guys. Like, why am I sitting at your table?
Exactly.
Like,
He's I won this ticket on a hand of poker. You know,
yeah.
and that's
And here I am.
and here I am,
Yeah.
and that's basically me. You know, and in a lot of ways us, when we end up in, you know, in company of people that we want to work with or companies, and we say it as a joke sometimes, like, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
We don't
Yeah.
belong in here.
Right, right.
But we go with it.
Right.
Because had we not done something prior to that, we wouldn't be there.
Right,
If we would have just kept it safe
right,
and sort of in the box,
right.
we'd never be there.
No.
So go out and be crazy and let your guard down, but
Yeah.
don't be romantic. Don't be too romantic. And then, plant. You'll sow what you reap.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Now you reap what you sow.
I never get it, and I even wrote it down.
That's a new metaphor, though. Maybe you sow what you reap, because
You sow what you reap.
got to put the seed back in the ground too. So
Yeah, maybe.
there's probably a nice little counterintuitive message there.
Yeah, I'm clearly not the one that's the speaker out of the two of us. I'm usually behind the scenes guy.
No, my wife's the master of mixed metaphors. So,
Oh, okay.
I'm used
Yeah.
to it.
And my wife's the one that's usually behind the camera, so or in front of the camera, I should say, not
Yeah,
behind it. I'm
yeah.
always behind it. So this is I'm out of my element, so I apologize. But yeah, plant, invest. It's just like economics. It could be simple.
Oh yeah.
Put in today, even a little bit, and then watch and see what happens. You might be surprised.
Amen.
Word up.
Later. Thanks for watching.
Love month.
That's what you hit.